7.4. That is the massive, frankly terrifying number we're looking at today. A 7.4 magnitude earthquake has just violently struck western Colombia, triggering a widespread state of emergency and leaving an absolute trail of destruction in its wake. But before we get into the complex geology or the geopolitical response, we really need to understand what a number like that actually means for the people on the ground.
To put that number into perspective, listen to this. I saw people running out naked, people jumping from their homes from the second floor, people in desperation. That's a direct quote from a resident of Quibdó, describing the sheer, visceral terror of the tremors. A 7.4 magnitude quake isn't just some abstract geological event, right? It is absolute, on-the-ground human panic. It's thousands of lives completely upended in a matter of seconds.
So welcome to our explainer. Today, we're doing a deep dive into this tragic event to understand the mechanics of the earthquake, the immense human toll it took, and the global ripple effects it triggered. We are going to break down the timeline, look at the structural devastation, and explore the massive rescue mobilization that followed. Okay, Section 1. The quake and the toll.
So this whole nightmare started really early in the morning. Just after 7:30 a.m., the massive tremor hit. The epicenter was pinpointed in the Chocó region, which is an area situated right along Colombia's Pacific coast. And think about that timing for a second. Striking at 7:30 means people were just starting their days, getting ready for work, rushing to take their kids to school, when the ground literally just gave way beneath them.
And looking at the human cost, it's absolutely heartbreaking. The confirmed toll is currently 224 dead and 880 injured. But we know those numbers only scratch the surface. Right now, more than 2,700 people have been reported missing on a citizen-run website. So we really have to present these numbers respectfully, acknowledging that the true scale of this disaster is still unfolding minute by minute as the rescue operations continue.
Moving on to Section 2, a trail of destruction.
Let's actually map this out, because different cities faced entirely unique forms of devastation. Down in Cali, which by the way is a major city of over 2 million people, at least 20 buildings collapsed, alongside severe power and water outages. In Pereira, an entire apartment block just completely crumbled. Over in Manizales, a beautiful historic cathedral tower collapsed directly onto its nave. And get this, even in Bogotá, a staggering 400 kilometers east of the epicenter, the shaking was so bad that hundreds of people were forced to evacuate. The physical reach of these tremors was absolutely wild. And it goes way beyond those individual structural failures. The entire region's infrastructure was effectively paralyzed. We're looking at a reported 1,600 buildings either damaged or completely destroyed. Furthermore, 6 different airports had to immediately suspend their operations. This heavy disruption to transport and public life basically stranded citizens and made the logistics of the immediate emergency response incredibly complex for the people trying to help. All right, Section 3, Anatomy of the Earthquake. So what actually caused this? Well, the U.S. Geological Survey traced the origins straight to the Nazca tectonic plate. That's a massive geological plate sliding beneath western South America. The quake itself was triggered by deep fault movement within this highly active zone.
Now this is where it gets really fascinating. What makes this specific quake so striking is the contrast in depth. The rupture occurred really deep down, about 110 kilometers beneath the Earth's surface. Yet, as we just saw, the impact up above ground was violent enough to crumble sturdy cathedrals hundreds of kilometers away. But here's the crucial thing about that extreme depth. It actually acted as a bit of a double-edged sword. While it caused those wide-reaching tremors, because it happened so incredibly deep down, there was no threat of a tsunami. So this critical geological factor actually prevented a massive secondary disaster from entirely wiping out Colombia's Pacific coast. We also have to put this event into proper context. Now, small earthquakes are fairly common in central and western Colombia. The folks there are used to the ground rumbling from time to time. But quakes above a magnitude 6, those are rare. So a 7.4 magnitude event is an exceptionally terrifying anomaly for this region. It utterly shattered the normal expectations of seismic activity.
Which brings us to Section 4, a region on edge.
You have to understand the psychological state of this region right now. It is a continent that has been repeatedly hammered. Back in June, just weeks before this disaster, 2 back-to-back megaquakes hit neighboring Venezuela, tragically killing over 5,000 people. Then, this 7.4 strikes Colombia. And within hours of the Colombian quake, tremors were actively being felt as far away as Ecuador and Panama. So the entire region is just physically and psychologically shaking right now.
There's this quote from a Venezuelan migrant that just perfectly captures the collective panic. They said, It really was something that made us want to get out, especially given what happened in our neighboring country. People weren't just reacting to the 7.4 tremor, they were actively reliving the trauma of 5,000 recent deaths right next door. Fearing aftershocks, many residents chose to just remain outside entirely, too terrified to go back into their own homes.
Let's pivot to Section 5, Rescue and Global Response.
The immediate local response was chaotic and desperate, for sure, but also incredibly heroic. The mayors of Bogotá and Medellín quickly deployed rescue workers to assist the hardest-hit areas. But on the ground, even before heavy machinery could arrive, local volunteers were seen joining forces with rescue teams. They were literally digging through the rubble with just buckets in their bare hands to search for survivors. Meanwhile, an urgent, widespread directive went out to citizens. Check your buildings for apparent structural damage, and if you see large cracks, drop everything and evacuate immediately.
Zooming out to the macro level, the international community stepped up almost instantly. The United States quickly announced an incredible $15.5 million in emergency relief to directly assist with the immediate fallout.
And the U.S. absolutely wasn't alone here. The European Union and the United Nations immediately reached out to assess the damage and make sure relief operations were moving. Regional neighbors like Mexico and Ecuador, right alongside France and Israel, rapidly offered their help as well. This was an immense, fast-moving global mobilization as all these nations scrambled to offer rescue aid to a country in desperate need.
Which brings us to our final takeaway. We've seen the raw destruction, the geological causes, and the incredible human effort to rescue those who were trapped. But looking at the broader picture, thousands dead in Venezuela, followed so closely by this massive catastrophe in Colombia, we are really left with a sobering thought. With overlapping disasters repeatedly striking the region, how will South America recover and rebuild from this escalating seismic activity? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope this deep dive helped you grasp the true scale of what is happening right now.